Drupal considers all content essentially the same thing. Everything is a node. I shouldn't say that. Almost everything is a node. There's nodes, users, and comments. And so if you make a blog, it's a node. If you make a page, it's a node. If you upload an image, it's a node. And so Drupal.org has got, millions of nodes with thousands of users creating them every day. So it can handle a fair amount of traffic. I think your LAMP stack will break or your server stack will break before Drupal does.
I think
if that's what you're asking.
That would be the main difference is that with WordPress I've noticed as I've used it that everything centers around this defined node, which is called a post. And everything that makes it look like a CMS is like a hack around that post.
Yeah.
And in Drupal, you have this node, which is a very generic form of content, which you can define yourself into whatever you want.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, WordPress, it's got the post, and in Drupal, which is when they're designing and working on WordPress, the post is a very conceptualized idea. It is something to the WordPress developers. A node is a concept. It can be anything as far as Drupal is concerned. You can define your own attributes for nodes. You can do whatever you want with the node. Whereas, like you said, you kind of have to hack Drupal or WordPress in order to get that type of functionality out there. Yeah, it's a very good point. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll tie into something that he mentioned. I recently launched a community news site with WordPress, and probably 3 days into that, I figured out that I could create a management workflow around WordPress when I had 20 content contributors, all injecting non-linear, non-chronological content into that. So about 3 to 4 days into the site, tore it down, revoked all the Joomla, and I was able to create a management workflow document.
How's your experience with Joomla, by the way? I've never really used it. So.
Yeah, I set up Joomla and Drupal in parallel directories of the web server. To me, they're functionally equivalent. It's easier for me to make a profitable website with Joomla because of the existing themes and templates.
There's a pretty big Joomla theming community, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So, for me, I can find a theme very easily, extensions very easily, plug them in.
Yeah, I've noticed. I don't know what the Joomla, do they call them extensions instead of modules?
Extensions and themes.
Yeah, I don't know what their extension community is like, but I know their theme community is really big. The Drupal module community, on the other hand, is really big. There's tons and tons of modules out there, but themes not as nearly as many.
So what you were saying earlier, to tie back into your questions, you really need to look at the goals of the website. I think Drupal, Joomla, WordPress can all handle the same volume, but if you have an organization where multiple people are contributing content and you need an interim level of management to be able to sort that content out, you're going to be looking at a CMS versus a blogging platform.
And if anybody's still a little unsure about which way they should go, I'd be more than happy for if you can give me a call and explain what your website does, and I can offer my opinion. Anybody who would like to hear it. Yes, ma'am.
I have probably a silly question, but forums, the e-commerce stuff, that's all pretty still easy to set up through Drupal, right?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. We set up forums on the Bookmans site and killed them because we didn't want to finish the setup. But that was more from a theming perspective.
Yeah, they work just fine.
They work. I haven't set up anything that doesn't work right. Well, some things that don't work is the way that we would like them to, but so far everything works right in Drupal unless there's something I'm over. I mean, we've had a lot of issues with getting our events calendar to work the way we wanted to, but not because of the module, because we wanted to do things it wasn't designed to. But yeah, they all work, and getting them set up is fairly easy. You should upload the module to the modules directory of the site and go to the control panel and turn it on, and generally it just works. It's the hard part, and this goes back to with developing Bookmans, the hardest part was the theme, is to get it all to look the way that your website does can sometimes be a little bit of a pain. Actually, it can be a really, really big pain. So, don't want to understate that.
I have sort of a hearsay opinion about Joomla and Drupal. I had a client who wanted a CMS, and they were a big client of a lot of contributors, and they had done their research and they had hit upon Joomla as the solution. And what I found in doing my research is it tended to be that developers who are kind of in the know, they tended to lean towards Drupal. And the clients tended to hear about Joomla and tended to see all the bells and whistles with Joomla, so they were more attracted to that in general. That's just my experience with it.
That kind of would make sense to me with my experience with the two of them. Before I even actually started at Bookmans, if someone had asked me Drupal or Joomla, I would have just said Drupal because I knew the development community, or at least the development community that I had seen was bigger and was more apparent. So to me, that's just a crutch to lean on. A big development community means lots of people to email and ask questions to. So I would go and with them. But like I said, I've never worked with Joomla, so I can't speak one way or the other.
You know, I've worked with Joomla quite a bit, and what I've noticed is that they are better out of the box, because if you find Drupal gives you almost, this node concept gives you almost complete granular approach to your content. Well, Joomla defines its stuff until what they think is going to be most useful. It's very hard to actually customize some of these things.
Right.
But you have to deal with the fact, okay, well, you know, I really have to go under the hood for that shit, or I just go with what they gave me.
Right.
So in a sense, you know, it makes it a lot easier for me to deploy a site for a low-budget project than it would be with Joomla than it would be with Drupal. And I wouldn't choose Drupal for somebody who wants a site like that and wants to pay $2,000 to $3,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Like I said, I've been working at Bookmans for a year, and had already started Drupal development when I got there, and we just launched on March 1st. So it took us a while to get that site up and running to our standards. So it's definitely not a quick development track. Lance, what's up?
You had mentioned that the themes was one of the harder parts to work with. And a lot of the people here might be more on the design side than the developer side. So say if I'm a graphic designer, but I know a little bit of HTML, would you do, like you said, you hire someone just to design it without any templating, no PHP, hand it over to a developer, or could somebody be trained to learn that templating code and work with you, like over time?
Not without learning PHP, because the way that the theme layer of Drupal is set up is it's split into two aspects. There's the HTML, CSS part, and then there's the part that fetches content, and that's in PHP. And Drupal will spit out a lot of content in a default way that you can then grab and display, format how you want, change CSS and HTML and stuff for it. But if you want to, what's a good example? A good example for our blog. We split our taxonomy for the blog, our tags, up into two fields. We've got free tagging, and we have our corporate kind of like sponsor tagging, our categories for it. And Drupal wants to spit them all out and give them to you as data all together. I had to go into PHP and manually split them apart and run two separate queries to get them. And so a developer our designer would have to learn how to do that type of work with it. It's not super complicated, but you gotta know how to write a query, how to take a query and loop through result sets and things like that.